and welcome to another fun-filled, expeditious episode of Radiorama, where I show you, as the name implies, how to work on radios, televisions, sometimes stereo equipment. And today we have a Stromberg Carlson, and unfortunately the model number is ripped off of the label, so I don't know what model it is, even though to me I'm like, so what? Probably made in the mid to late 30s. Have a pretty big speaker on it. Working condition unknown. I'm not going to power it up because the cord is really messed up on it. It's got push-pull audio, 6F6 push-pull, nice big chunky transformer. Stromberg Carlson made telephone equipment, commercial and residential telephone equipment, and so everything they built was like a tank. And so this was one of the nicer upper end models, very well made. They usually sound really good. We are going to auction this guy. It appears to have the original finish on it, which is good. We can revitalize that. And it's got all the matching original knobs, which is good too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the chassis out and take a look inside to see what's going on. Okay, well, I got the cabinet out, not the cabinet, the chassis out, and this guy had 13 or 14 cats, and his house was very dusty, and as a result this chassis is also very dusty. So what I'm going to do is take it upstairs. I'm not sure how much I can get done on it. We only have a few more hours left at the museum today. I'm worn out also because we've been preparing for our event, and all this crap is going out for the event. We just have an entire yard of this stuff, and it's all things that I can't get to, or people can't get to, or they're not particularly valuable, or we don't feel like working on them, or we have too many of them. This is about half of what will be here. If y'all are curious, look up Radio Day by the Bay. And if you live in Northern California, come on down, or come on up, or wherever you're from. Okay, well, I didn't get much done yesterday. In fact, I got nothing done on it. I just simply brought it home. I didn't get much done because I had to find a schematic for it, and since there was no model markings on it, I did a Google search for images of Stromberg Carlson consoles, and I couldn't find exactly the right model, but I found what I think is the same chassis because the tube line up and everything is the same. So this says it's a model 62 or 63. It might actually be a 62 because I did see a 6 and a 2 together on the label before the corner got tore off. So maybe this is a model 62. But what's frustrating, and the reason that you need to have a schematic for this guy, is because unlike most other sets where the capacitors are marked with their values, they are marked with a part number. And so there's no indication of what that value is, and that just makes things a little bit more slow going. So luckily I have the parts list so I can identify what's what. I appreciate the fact that we have a wiring diagram. That makes it a little bit quicker for identifying things. But again, like you see, there's no indication of the value. It's just a part number, so you have to look at the parts list to get that value. Here is another wiring diagram, and actually it looks like that on this one the values are marked. So see, there's just 0.05 microfarads. It's not a very good print. It's better than some. Some of these are illegible. I think a lot of these were scanned in the 90s, and so back then, you know, it was like you had a 56K dial-up modem, so things had to be smaller. It's interesting. I don't see an actual. Oh wait, here's the schematic. Here's the actual schematic right here, and what I wanted to do is find out what this value was here, and okay, here's the, well, the thing is the parts list does not indicate what value the electrolytics are. This says it's got 8 at 450, and then 4 plus 4. So does that mean there's 3 values inside of here? An 8, and then a 4, and a 4? I guess. This says 8. I'm assuming that might be 8 microfarads and 500. That's my guess anyway. I don't have any caps rated at 500 volts. I've got 450, so I'll have to make sure and measure that B plus to make sure it's. I'm pretty sure it's not going to go over 250, 300 volts in reality. The reason that I want to replace their electrolytics first is because when we flip it underneath, there's a little signs of some troubling things I'm seeing under here that might indicate there's a possible thermal breakdown, but I could be wrong. So let's flip it over and take a look. Okay, so here is the underneath, and this is not going to be an easy one to do. We have, probably these are also electrolytic capacitors. In fact, this one is definitely, it says 4 microfarads at 250 volts. I can't see the writing on that one. That's got a part number, so I'll need to find out what that is. There is another electrolytic here. That's probably the bias going into the audio output stage. And then here's another this thing's got a lot of electrolytics in it. And then here's as I mentioned, these things only have part number on them. And I'd looked up this number, this 24402. Those are all 0.05 rated microfarad capacitors. I'm not going to bring this up on the Variac. This is old enough to where I don't trust anything to possibly be at all remotely good anymore. What troubles me is seeing this. Now, granted, I think they probably soaked the exterior of this thing with tar, and some of it had dripped down onto the cabinet below. So it definitely has the appearance of being overheated, but again, on these Stromberg Carlsons, I've seen this before, and they're usually okay. It's just that it looks worse than, it looks bad from the factory because they coated it in that goo. So quite a bit of things going on here. Here's our, probably the tone control, on-off volume, band switch. Well, actually, what is that? This is the band switch, because here's all the wafers. Actually, that might be, there might be a bass and a treble control. That's going into one of the IF transformers. And I've seen tone controls acting in that way. Now, technically, I'm not sure how to explain how that works because I'm not an engineer. But I've seen that in a lot of higher end sets for some reason. It's a weird way of doing it. So we have quite a bit going on here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 paper caps, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the electrolytics on top. 6, 7, 8, 9 electrolytics. Again, this is probably a good sounding set. They were high end. They good push-pull audio, decent sized speaker. But I just want to replace the electrolytics and then bring it up and see if it's going to do anything. So I've replaced 3 of the electrolytics so far. Those tiny little seafoam green guys, they're rated at 500 volts. So that'll more than cover my voltage concerns. This is one of the old electrolytics that was in there, and you can see it's split open. That probably stopped really being a capacitor a long time ago. Yuck. And here's the other one. Doesn't look too bad. Back in my younger, dumber days, I used to just power these guys right up without even looking underneath, and it was amazing how many of them would still work even though they look like crap underneath. Getting to this one's going to be tricky because there's this box here, and I'm trying to decide what to do about it. I did find it. Here is that box, and it says, come on, get out of the way, that there is a 150 picofarads capacitors. Then that's connected to, it looks like a little coil of some point, from some sort. You can see it. Looks like it runs between the two. And then it goes to this little trimmer here, which is hard to follow. I wonder how critical it is, if it has much voltage on it. It doesn't say. At bare minimum, I'm going to have to loosen this so I can get to this electrolytic, which is buried underneath all that. I think what I'll do actually is replace this as well. That needs to clear some space so I can get to things. And what does that say? 24405. And where is 24405? God, it's hard to read this thing. 24405. So what are you? It's annoying because these are not 24405, 0.04 microfarad. So 0.047 would work just fine. It's close enough. Whew. All right, all the electrolytics are now replaced. There's a lot of them in this thing. And so I dare say I'm going to, well, what I need to do first actually is replace this power cord. Oh man. How do they install this thing? Looks like they have to remove stuff to get at it. Oh, why did they design it this way? So stuff's going to have to move for me to get at it. What's going on here? Flashlight's got a magnet sticking to my light. Let me think about this. Anyway, estate sale up the street just opened. I think I'm going to take a break and go look at some stuff, even though I don't need any more junk in my house. I just can't resist estate sales. Well, that was a total waste. There was nothing there. I've noticed these when you go to the yard sales or in estate sales sometimes, it's like there's nothing good anymore. It's like mostly new stuff. Like once you start getting into the 80s, things become getting crappier and crappier. Anyhow, I had to move that guy and this just to access the power cord connections. I'm going to be very careful not to break any of those windings there. And so I've got a new cord. While I'm at it, this is the across the line cap. I know it because I've seen this before. And so we just need to, it looks like it goes to either end of the transformer here. I'll just run a lead across there. Anyway, let's get the cord and the across the line cap and put the stuff back in. And then we can bring it up and see if it works. Alright, so here we got our safety caps installed as well as the new cord. And now I'm going to put all this stuff back, starting with this in reverse order of how I took it apart, and hopefully not break anything in the process. Alright, it's do or die time. I think it's on, but I'm going to run it through my Variac. I want to see if it's going to draw anything, if it's going to do anything catastrophic. It may not be on. Put about 50 volts. And it's not really drawing anything per se. Could be the switch is gunked up. Yeah, I think the switch might be gunked up because it's not really engaging in a very satisfying, it's not clicking or anything. So let me unplug it and see if I can loosen up the controls. I've got some bad news. Nothing seems to be happening here. Now, I'm not sure if the switch is still gunked up or what, but it's not turning on. There's nothing. So I'm going to have to flip it over, see if I'm getting any power to it at all. I think I might have a short in one of the wires going to the switch. The switch is working because I can, see that it's opening and closing. But when I measure across it, there's no voltage. So that tells me that these skinny ass little wires, one of them must have snapped somehow. So I got to trace those out. And I'm hoping that's what it is, because otherwise that would suggest that there's something going seriously wrong with the power transformer. And of course it's in a difficult to reach area where all that crap is. I might have possibly broken one of the wires when I was moving stuff around. Single strand wire, it doesn't take much to snap them. Well, I got bad news, and I wish I had found this out before spending any time on this thing. The center tap of the power transformer is open. And this is not your ordinary transformer. It is a whopper of a transformer. And I would have to go dig through the hundreds of boxes we have of parts to see if I have anything like it. It's unlikely. So this guy, sometimes projects don't work out the way that you want them to work out. And so I am going to post this video. It's a sad video. I'm going to put it back together and write a note as far as what's wrong with it. And maybe when I get some time, I can go see if we have any other transformers. Or if I'm brave enough, maybe I can take the bell housings off and see what kind of mess is inside. If there's any way that I can reattach the winding. So it's sad. It's nice Stromberg Carlson, but it has a catastrophic failure. It's one of the worst failures you can get on a radio. If it were just a regular old RCA or General Electric or something like that, then it'd be easier, because we do have some more generic transformers, but this is a little bit more of a special transformer. So that's it for this episode, guys. Sorry.